Today, all of our prayers go out to Stillwater, Oklahoma, but also our prayers throughout the course of the offseason seem to be answered. Running back U is an expectation in Stillwater, and the new O-line group, I think, should encompass that wholeheartedly in 2025 as well.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at Aldeo State. Today, we're partially brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment matter more, especially right now when new customers can get $200 back in bonus bets with your first $5 bet being a winner. Get with FanDuel.com today. Meanwhile, we're going to shift right into the conversation of some of the expectations for this upcoming Oklahoma State football season. The 2026 recruiting class is already off to an incredibly hot start, meaning, in my eyes, the 2025 recruiting class might be the cornerstone, the building blocks for the most important resurgence in Oklahoma State football history. And to help me break some of that down, ladies and gentlemen, the offensive tackle that is now in Stillwater, America to help bring back RBU, Jaylan Beckley. How are we feeling today, sir?
We're feeling great. How are we doing?
You know what? I'm very excited, not only about the things that are already happening with the 2026 class. Clearly, Todd Grantham, Doug Meacham, and company are bringing in a little bit of a different recruiting style. And I think if you were to ask most of the fan base, 2025 was obviously the worst season we've had in over 2 decades, the worst conference season we've had since 1994. So this restoration of order that has been permeating around campus, it means even more so to me when you look at this 2025 class. Without the 24 class, we wouldn't have had the capabilities likely to keep the roster pretty young. But without the 2025 class, I don't think we have the success right now in 2026, even with the new flavor that Todd Grantham and Doug Meacham bring. If you don't have some cornerstones in the previous class, then it's really hard to sales pitch. You, sir, were not only one of those cornerstones, but I just mentioned Landon Cleveland strategically, because he was really one of the guys that was galvanizing that class, telling everybody you need to come to Stillwater. And if you are coming to Stillwater, we need to link up, work out. You seem to be that guy for the 2025 class. So first of all, what made you choose Oklahoma State out of everybody? Because you were formerly, we're going to get to this, but a 4-star Clemson commit before you decided to be a Cowboy. So what happened in the recruiting process that made you kind of guide yourself towards Oklahoma State?
Yeah, so obviously throughout my kind of recruiting journey, I always loved Oklahoma State.
Right.
Oklahoma State has always been a place that I gravitated towards. There were a couple different schools that really stood out to me culture-wise, and so that was one of the huge differentials for me and what chose my school. Obviously, I had a good relationship with Coach Dickey and Coach Allen, but obviously all of the offensive staff, like Coach Gundy as well. He was different than what your typical college coach is. I love the family environment. I love just the grinding Coach Glass. It's really unique and something that Oklahoma State has that I think really makes it a powerhouse. And so just all those different categories really just it boils down to what felt like home for me and a place that I could be in a good vicinity of home as well.
Well, speaking of it feeling like home, obviously from the things that I've gathered, Mama Bear Beckley, it was pretty massive in helping kind of guide the ship as to why the family atmosphere at Oklahoma State was going to help you be considerably different than some of the other places. What were some of the things that Mama Bear was specifically looking at just in general when it came to recruiting, not just Oklahoma State, but overall?
Overall recruiting, I mean, we kind of had a close communication as far as what I had important and what she had important as well. Now, obviously, it came down to what was important for me, but it was really helpful being able to get her input on things and, just getting a different perspective, because obviously she sees things in a way that I'm not able to, and vice versa. And so just talking about the life after football preparation, do the coaches seem to really be focused on what your life is going to be after football, whether that be going in the league, whether that be as soon as you're done getting your degree, going into the work field, really just kind of emphasizing that they're not just football players and kind of seeing what the different tools that the school is able to equip you with to make that transition easier, and just to be able to have a time where you're set up the very best to be the best football player possible you can be. And as well, just a place that'll grow me as a young man, and just being able to get some of those tools for life and for football.
Well, obviously, you were designed to be in orange because the orange at Clemson was the first thing that kind of had a lot of allure to you. So I think obviously it was 100% meant to be that you'd end up in orange regardless. I do have to ask before we kind of shift gears here. Did anybody give you a justification as to why you went from a very high-rated 4-star that was a Clemson commit to why they bumped you down to a 3-star just because you decommitted? And we're not going to get deep into it, but did you ever get a
Mhm.
justification, or did it just happen? Because you got bigger, stronger, faster, and your film got nothing but
Right.
better, as did your pancakes and your stat. So did anybody say anything, or they just did it?
I did not get a justification actually. And to be honest, after seeing the change between my skill on the uprise and the ranking kind of going
Yeah.
down, you don't expect for that to be the case. Usually you expect for the ranking to go higher and to be correlating along with the skill, the experience, everything that's growing. And so that kind of just led me to change my perspective a little bit on it and seeing what that looks like as far as not giving the star rankings as much power. And honestly, as long as Oklahoma State didn't care, I was fine. And they were all like, that stuff does not matter. We don't care. It doesn't change how we feel about you. So I was fine. But
Well, to
yeah,
me,
I did not get clarification though.
it accentuates the point, right? Because it's been statistically proven, especially in the last year and a half or so, that I can't remember the exact percentage, but it was in the 70, high 70, low 80% range,
Mhm.
where if somebody left a particular school and went to any SEC school, they automatically got a bump. And if you left an
Mhm.
SEC school and went anywhere other than that, you got it. So it's kind of proven that the star rating system, unfortunately, it's about talent, it's about skill, but it's also equally about politics and helping
Right.
posture certain things up, because that goes into the rankings. Who knew that your quote unquote recruiting numbers had a
Mhm.
byproduct directly correlated to the rankings and all that CFP style of equations? It's preposterous. You're here to shatter those whatever false narratives that were put forth and you losing a star anyways. But you kind of, before we do shift gears here, since you were recruited by some of the old staff, and of course Zach Allen is still around, which is beneficial.
Mhm.
But have you had the opportunity, or when did you have the opportunity to kind of get things locked down with some of the new coaches? Because you could have left whenever we
Mhm.
decided to switch all of the coaching. What in the coaching staff made you decide that this was still 100% your spot?
Honestly, just knowing Coach Gundy and being able to have a good amount of conversations with him and time with him, it really led me to just trust what his plan is. And also just knowing, like, for me, my faith is a huge aspect in what my choice was for Oklahoma State, and why I ended up where I am. And so for me, I just realized I committed. Obviously, I've been gravitating towards the school for a reason. And while my relationship with some of the past staff was important, I knew that Coach Gundy and his character and what he values, I knew that that wouldn't shift. Like, it just because it's a different person, they still
Yeah.
would fall in line with what Oklahoma State football is, and the character and the family, all those things that were important to me before. I didn't even question, well, is this coach going to value those same things? Because I know Coach Gundy's standard. And so, like, getting to know Coach Mitchell, getting to know Coach Bassett, as well as Grant Garner,
Yes.
just getting to talk to them, and also just them all playing at Oklahoma State before plays a huge role into it. Like, that's awesome. The fact that they can all relate, we're in the shoes that I'm about to step in now. Just being able to see that is really, really cool. And I think that all the new staff has something really fun and just some new things to add to Oklahoma State football, just to make it that more important. And it really makes me excited for what the future of Cowboy football looks like.
Well, dude, not only did they play here, but they were all here in that 2010, 2011 timeframe where we were winning a Big 12 championship and beating
Right.
Andrew Luck in the Fiesta Bowl. And so I completely agree with the fact that they're former Cowboys is important, but they weren't just former Cowboys. They were winning Cowboys that have
Right.
rings and trophies and
Excuse me.
hardware to go alongside of it. And this is 100% realistic. Oklahoma State not getting into the national championship is why the BCS fell apart. So they were part of
Mhm.
all of that as well. I don't know if you knew that, but yes, it
I
was
did not know.
statistically, yeah. So it was supposed to be Oklahoma State in the national championship, and then the day that they announced everything, somehow between the human element and the computer element, Alabama they had only one like top 15 W. They were behind us in strength of schedule. They were behind us in top 25 wins. They were behind us in like 7 categories, yet they automatically somehow jumped us out of nowhere for the national championship by 0.008%. And so they even recognized something was fishy here. We need to fix it because this obviously doesn't work. And now we have the CFP, thanks to Oklahoma State. And those coaches were there for that. They were a part of getting robbed out of a national title. And you get to be part of the crew that could potentially take us back to where we were always supposed to be from back in the day. But before we shift gears here and talk a little bit more, ladies and gentlemen, I do have to remind all of the fine folks out here that we have something to take care of. And whenever you're trying to get the most out of your day, you got to pay attention to the travels. And Nissan will get you anywhere you need to be, anytime you need to be there. The all-new lineup at Nissan is going to have everything that you need to capitalize on a championship-level season. But one of the best things they have going for them is this Nissan Pro 4X. We say all the time here, stats, lives matter. Well, statistically speaking, there's nothing out there like the Pro 4X that's already putting up MVP-level numbers. With the ability to tow up to 8,500 pounds, it can literally carry the whole team plus all of the gear wherever you need to go. With the fuel efficiency behind a twin turbo-powered V6 engine, it's going to deliver the strength and performance to handle all things in your way, whether highways, back roads, and everything in between. With the room to seat up to 8 people, the Armada Pro 4X is built for big crews, big adventures, and even bigger memories. Whether you're exploring the off-road trails or you're simply just rolling up to the arena or stadium, the Armada Pro 4X brings power, versatility, and style wherever you go. Take your adventures to new heights with the all-new Nissan Armada Pro 4X. Learn more at nissanusa.com. Get squared away in your Nissan fix today. Speaking of getting your fix knocked out, it is March Madness. It is time for the brackets, and it's also time for you to capitalize on your monetary gains with FanDuel. Right now, FanDuel is giving you a chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 back in bonus bets when your first $5 hauler is a winner. That's 200 bones back in bonus bets that you can utilize after buzzer beaters or even watch the most interesting Cinderella stories, all the way to the very end of who's going to cut down the championship net. If you've got your eye on a few underdogs, FanDuel is going to make it easy for you to back them with spreads, totals, and the best game props in the industry. With tournament games happening almost every single day, there's going to be something for you to bet on 24/7. The FanDuel app is safe, secure, and super easy to use. And best of all is you get paid instantly. Make sure that you visit FanDuel.com to get in on the college hoops action. Do not miss out on your opportunity to capitalize on March Madness because it is finally right around the turn here. All right, Jaylan, let's hop back into this conversation of not only what it's like to be a Cowboy. You did kind of mention Glass a little bit. So now that some of the guys are on breaks, obviously I've been able to have some conversations. And numerically speaking, this might be the best version of Rob Glass we've ever received. Some guys are down percentages of body fat that they didn't even know existed. Like returning guys that have already been through this for a couple years now, they're now even getting benefits that Rob Glass typically is known for. But how does somebody like that continuously learning to evolve their craft to get us even better? And what's it like compared to some of the other weightlifting things that you've done in your life?
I mean, just looking at Coach Glass, like his reputation for season, honestly, I mean,
Okay.
I have not been on campus yet, so obviously I have not been able to experience it with my own body. But I mean, just being able to see as far as what he's done, his track record, obviously the scape of just sports medicine and being able to look at what that looks like in kinesiology, it's like always changing, right? We're always learning new things.
Yes, sir.
But at the same time, Coach Glass, as long as he's been doing it, naturally you would expect for someone to eventually cap at a level that they would.
Yes.
Like you'd expect for them to cap to where, okay, you've been doing this for 20 plus years. You would expect at some point for it to be like, okay, the old tricks aren't working anymore. And not being able to, but just constantly being able to adapt. And I mean, I think that justifies why the reputation that he has and why he's the most paid in college football. I mean, it's just what he's able to do with athletes and how he's able to just grow and change just for like speed, strength, agility, all the things that require just to be an elite football player. I think is just amazing to see how he can just continue to adapt to it and just what he can do with some guys who are willing to put the work in.
I'll tell you another thing that seems to be kind of popular around Stillwater is the fact that Todd Grantham and the defensive side of the ball, they've installed some things defensively that are light years different than anything we've ever done before. Now, whether it's
Mhm.
going to be a 3-4 system, 4-3 system, so on and so forth, if this is going to be more of an NFL style of a model, and if we're going to conduct things kind of like, mini camps and OTAs and get down to the preseason where you have to make cuts, I would imagine that this is going to have an effect, if that's the case, on the offensive side of the ball. So have
Mhm.
you heard any rumblings, at least to some degree? I know you're not officially on campus, but you've been back a couple times to kind of get a lay of the land. Have
Mhm.
you gathered that this particular season might be a little bit of a different model as well, as opposed to perhaps some of the coaches that recruited you?
Absolutely. With the new offensive coordinator, Coach Meckham, and just looking at it, I was able to see it last Saturday when I was up at OSU. We got to talk a little bit about schemes and just looking
Okay.
at it. I mean, I think when you see how it really is reflecting more and more in NFL style, for one, I think that prepares us better that want to play in the NFL. I think that's awesome. It makes the integration process that much easier when we're trying to
Yes.
move on to the next level. And so I think just there seeing it, one defensively, but also offensively, we're definitely going to go into a direction where it's something that not a lot of people are doing right now. And it's something that once all the players get it down, and once we're all able to get on the same page with that, it's going to be a beast to be going up against on both sides of the ball.
Well, I think you highlighted something there that if this is the route that we do, in fact, end up going and it's kind of cemented in as the new Cowboy way, you're right.
Hmm.
If that is the case, there's only a handful of even SEC teams that are able to conduct things this way, which kind of proves it's not always about just the financial compensation. But of course,
Hmm.
NIL is a factor, and you have to be competitive to be at the forefront of NIL. But even more
Right.
so than that is one of the biggest sales pitches that the SEC always had, even before it was true. Because honestly, dude, back in the day, the SEC wasn't that big of a deal, but they
Hmm.
were always running around chanting SEC, and they kind of built their own machine. But the thing that was always, recognized with the SEC ability to get you the NFL was because they have some teams that conduct things that way. If
Hmm.
you are finding yourself able to implement this in Stillwater, Oklahoma, in my personal opinion, that simply gives you another sales advantage that not everybody else in the league is going to have, because, of course, everybody would like to have an NFL style system. But in order for
Hmm.
that to be applicable, you have to have, like an Oklahoma State scenario, we have 3 offensive line coaches, we have 3 linebackers
Right.
coaches, we have like 5 DB coaches. So not only are you just kind of viewing things as a group, but you get some individual training at an expert
Hmm.
level that hasn't been applicable in Stillwater before. And so you mentioned all 3 of the offensive line coaches in Stillwater. What do you think, or at least some of your discussions with them, how do you expect them to be able to implement certain things with you that are different than everybody else? Because we do have 3 coaches. How does that kind of change things from your perspective as far as learning the intangibles?
I think one thing, just being able to have those 3 coaches lets you have a much more in-depth learning process. And they touched a little bit on Saturday, talking about how each of them really want to be able to try to meet a player where they're at. And not
Okay.
every player is going to learn the same way, just like in the
Right.
classroom.
Yes.
Some people are more tactile learners. Some people are audio learners. Some people need to walk through, like just with film. Some people like to sit there and watch film. Some people like to see it drawn out on a whiteboard. Some people need to just verbally process it. And
Yeah.
so I think having 3 of those coaches that you don't have to question any of their knowledge and stuff like that, I mean, that's honestly probably one of the biggest aspects. Me as being a future player, that brings me some, peace of mind, being able to not, if I can't talk to one coach, I'm not just kind of lost and not having my question
Okay.
answered. And so they all seem, of course, they've walked in those footsteps before that I'm about to enter into. And so I think just seeing that, it makes me feel more confident as a player because they can relate to where I'm at, but they can also kind of see the different ways that maybe I need to learn versus what my teammate is going to need to learn at. And just being able to see that being implemented into our scheme.
Dude, that's actually a phenomenal answer, because I did not see for that being the answer. Because I think most of us, when we view 3 offensive line coaches, it's like, okay, well, there's only interior O line, there's only exterior O line, so there can only be a certain number of things that they're teaching them from a tangible standpoint. But you just mentioned
Mhm.
it. everybody has different learning styles, and all
Right.
three coaches probably don't coach the same way. So one
Mm-hmm.
coach might be able to help you understand things from a film perspective, but it might take another coach for you to understand the implementation physically on the field. So
Right.
actually, dude, that's a direction that I hadn't thought of. That not only do you have three O-line coaches, but the way that they teach can be different,
Right.
and different guys will learn things different ways. That's Well, look at you go. Look at you. And lastly, we'll shift gears again here because, as you know, Oklahoma
Mhm.
State has a ton of running backs that have competed for Heisman's, competed for Doak Walkers. We talked a little
Right.
bit off air about all of the running backs that are currently in the NFL. A couple of them just got upgrades financially. Some of them got upgrades in the depth chart. So they're going to be a feature back after Chuba's feature season. To be an offensive lineman at Oklahoma
Mhm.
State, there is an expectation to produce on the
Right.
ground. And I think one of the other fun facts is having the different position coaches, multiple, they're teaching little technical details that
Mhm.
I don't think have always been available in Stillwater, right? Because
Mhm.
if you're a pulling guard, pulling tackle, the way that you set your feet in alignment, it's kind of important, right? If you're going to pull,
Right.
but you also have to learn how to disguise it without giving away that you're about to pull.
Yeah.
And they're teaching the guys how to shift their feet 2 inches this way or turn their toes a little bit this way. And I feel like that's some of the technical training that we didn't always get previously.
Right.
Is that something that you seem to have gravitated towards as well? Does it seem accurate, or am I just blowing smoke?
Obviously, yeah, I think that that's a huge part, just being able to see the way that we're able to learn from a different perspective. You're always learning, and the landscape is always just being able to change. And so I think that not that the past coaching was an issue. I just think that
Right.
it brings a really unique perspective, being able to see three different coaches and just what that brings. Each of them brings something unique to the table. And so I think that just means, especially for the players that were there prior, they're able to see it more so than I am.
Sure.
But I think that just being able to see each of those three different coaches from a classroom standpoint, as far as learning the game, applying it, just like you were talking about a little bit earlier, I think that each of those things is just going to elevate one, that O line room, but also the entire program, because it seems that both sides of the ball are starting to gravitate towards that style of more NFL catered. And I think that honestly just pushes us to be better. And because when we're able to see it from different perspectives, that's just different ways for us to learn and see things that you wouldn't have been able to see if you were only seeing it from one or two perspectives per se.
Yet again, you hit an absolute home run with your answer because, yeah, I mean, again, Charlie Dickey was a legend. If you look back at the K-State days, he was there for all of the Colin Klein's rush towards
Mhm.
a Heisman Trophy finalist nomination. He was there for all of that. But in this new world of constantly evolving NIL, transfer, NFL potential, you kind of need to dial in on having the ability to coach multiple ways at the same position. Obviously, we have that now because this has shifted more towards a business. Even Mike Gundy has mentioned that
Mhm.
multiple times. So we're going to talk about the big business that is RBU in a second. But speaking of business, this could be your opportunity to make sure that your money isn't acting funny and your strange isn't acting strange. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Monarch Money is what you need in your life to make sure that you don't have things going all over the place when it comes to financials. It's a budgeting app that's going to help you be the financial command center that you've always needed. Because we've all checked our bank account at some point in time and wondered, well, where did all of my money go? Between dining out, shopping online, just regular everyday entertainment, it is easy to lose track of where your money's kind of floating around. That's where Monarch Money comes in. This is going to be your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over all of your finances. Monarch Money is not just your regular budgeting app. Again, this is the financial command center that you've always needed. You can track your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. Stop managing your money without building the wealth behind it. When you use Monarch Money, you're going to realize how much you were spending on unnecessarily food related things that you didn't necessarily need to. You can budget smarter with the convenience of not having to juggle multiple apps. You can use Monarch Money to check your finances, track spending, and plan for your long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use a code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your very first year. Go to monarchmoney.com. The code is Locked On College, all one word, and capitalize on half off your first year, not 20%, 15%, 50% off your first year. Get with Monarch Money so you know exactly what you're doing financially. All right, I feel like talking about money, it's a good segue here, Jaylan Beckley, because the money makers at Oklahoma State have always been running back and wide receiver, even dating back to the black and white TV day. So in the midst of the years where we were not all that great, we still had a way to produce NFL level wide receivers and running backs. So there's an expectation that if you do not have a 1,000-yard rusher in Stillwater, then something went wrong. Right? What happened in Stillwater for us not to have a 1,000-yard rusher? Ollie Gordon now takes his talents onto the NFL, but we do have Trent Howland coming in, who was the leading rusher at Indiana not too long ago. Rodney Fields proved to be a very adequate true freshman this previous season. And then Sesi Valai was actually trained by the same exact coach that coached Jaylen Warren. So they have a very similar running style. And then you have another big body bruising beast, Jaden Allen Hendricks, to go along with the OU transfer, Caleb Hicks. So we seem to be pretty locked and loaded at the running back position, but is this something that's been accentuated to you that if you come play offensive line at Oklahoma State, no matter what is happening, you do have a job, and that job is to make a 1,000-yard rusher every single year? Has that been accentuated to you throughout your recruiting thus far?
Absolutely. I mean, just seeing with all the new coaching staff that we've had, we're trying to re-emphasize some things, and we're really trying to rebuild. And so I think it's some really important things we're trying to emphasize, just really physical football, being able to just absolutely dominate our side of the ball and being able to see what that looks like. But that's definitely something that's been emphasized for me.
And have you had the ability to block for both a big bruising power back and a quick as all get out lightning back? If so, what do you think the difference is between blocking for those dudes? For example, I know as a quarterback, if you get out outside the tackle box and you start running around like crazy, it looks cool on TV, and it is cool if you're a wide receiver, but that is not fun for an O-lineman when you've got a quarterback going absolutely everywhere because, you know what I mean? It's difficult.
Making your job harder.
Yeah. So is there a big difference when you're blocking for a power back that you know is going to utilize the 2-hole, 1-hole, 3-hole, 4-hole style of equations as opposed to a lightning quick guy that might be in the 2-hole 1 second and he might be out by the numbers before you can blink? Have you been able to block for both of those styles so far in high school?
Actually, yes, I have been a little bit. I think that it's something that's really awesome being able to see. I personally love when my blocks are being used. You know, obviously I'm down there getting nitty and gritty, so I want the running back to be able to, once he sees the hole, be able to use it. You know, but I think both have their strengths and weaknesses for sure. But I think that's really awesome that we're able to have both of those. So we're able to kind of utilize both. Like when one's not working as well, you can switch over to the other one. Just being able to make us a more versatile team, I think is awesome.
So it doesn't add an extra layer of stress when you have a Tyreek Hill style of guy in the backfield as opposed to a big bruising. As long as you do your job, you're a happy camper, huh?
Right. Yeah.
Fair play. Now, as it pertains to the offensive stuff, obviously, Alan Bowman is taking his talents on from Oklahoma State after a long career in college football. So now we have a 4-man quarterback battle, which I don't know that I've ever seen and stuff. We've had quarterback battles before, right? That's pretty normal. But 3 of these 4 are consensus or former 4-star recruits coming out of high school that were recruited by everybody in the country. Garrett Rangel, before he got injured in the BYU game, completely changed the level of the offense that we were playing throughout the season. And then the latter few games of the year, true freshman Mailuake Smith comes in, wins a ball game, had the opportunity of winning another ball game, so he proved to be adequate. And then you have Haas Haney coming over, and I don't care who you are. Running a 10-6-40 is absolutely preposterous. It doesn't matter what position you are. Whenever it's a quarterback, that is going to make essentially your job more difficult, but also easier, right? Because you have 4 quarterbacks that are capable of starting at this level. You have 4 quarterbacks that have the ability to get us back to Arlington. Whenever you're blocking, I would imagine that you're simply just trying to do your job to make sure that all of them are successful. But have you seen the difference between a pure pocket passer and a mobile quarterback? Because it seems as though football's kind of gravitating to more of the mobile quarterback mold. Would you kind of agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just being able to look at how the game is changing and quarterbacks, how they're making them more versatile, I think that just adds to our strengths. Honestly, being able to not just be one dimensional, but adding more and more dimensions to what our abilities look like, it just makes us that more of a formidable opponent, and it makes us that much harder to beat because we're taking away everything that we add. We're taking away an option for someone else to take advantage of. So I love it. I'm all for it.
I love it too, man. Well, you know what? I'm not going to take up too much of your time. This has been an absolute pleasure. And thankfully, like we've been able to have several conversations throughout your recruiting process. So happy we could finally get this thing rocking and rolling, squared away here. Lastly, before we get out of here, when are you? I know obviously you got some stuff to finish with high school. When are you reporting up to Stillwater, America? And what should Cowboy Country be on the look at? What are your other hobbies? Do you like to fish? Do you like to hunt? Do you like to cook? What is your
Yes,
fun
no, I love to
Jaylan
cook. I'll
Beckley
be there
side
May
hustle?
31st. May 31st, we're
Okay.
moving in. So I'm super excited for that. Just kind of getting stuff ready and getting stuff for the dorm has been super fun. But as far as hobbies, I mean, I've really just been focusing on school and working out right now. I do love cooking when I have the free time. I love to read when I have free time as well. That's something that I like to do. But yeah, so I'm just counting down the moments till I'm down in Stillwater for sure now. For sure.
Well, reading is good because you're going to have a significantly more expanded playbook to be able to sift through, right? And the
Right.
comprehension level. And I will say before we get on off of here, if you're having the NFL model kind of be installed on the offensive side and the defensive side, it's going to make things much more difficult for you guys for install and to have the understanding of multiple variations can have different meanings and different scenarios predicated upon how everything's lined up. But your ability in the classroom, I think, is something that's going to give you the capability to earn some playing time fairly early on. Now, if you notice in the 2026 class, it's already been put out by Robert Allen that we're really only planning on bringing in one tackle. That's it. To me,
Yeah.
that accentuates the fact that we're pretty comfortable with the guys that we have. Of course, we brought in some of the veterans like Louis Canepa from New
Right.
Mexico, and then you also brought in Kason Carpenter from Tulsa. But on top of that, we brought in some younger guys, and you were the catalyst. You were the Landon Cleveland of this class to help keep it all together. Whenever you and Michael Riles were just constantly reaching out to everybody and giving us some hope that in 2025, we are here to get Oklahoma State back to where it's been for the last 18, 19 years, and that is at the
Right.
forefront of the conference, competing for Big 12 titles. Jaylan Beckley, I greatly appreciate your time. Maybe you'll have some time to go cook something up for Mama Bear here before too long, but let the fine folks out here know, what has Jaylan got going on before he finishes his high school career, and how can they follow along on the socials and things of that nature?
Yes, I'll be on Twitter and Instagram are the main two social media platforms that I'll be on. You can follow me at Jaylan Beckley, Jaylan.Beckley on Twitter. But I'm grinding, I'm getting ready so I can be able to add as much to Stillwater as I can. I want to be able to contribute as much as I can as early as I can if possible. So I'm just ready. I hope you guys can stay tuned and be able to just watch along with this journey with me and seeing what this next stage of life looks like in Stillwater.
I cannot wait for it, brother, man. This should be an exciting season. It's kind of hard, after your worst year in 20 plus years to view everything somewhat with criticism, but just hearing some of the things that are happening on campus, seeing some of the Rob Glass tendencies that are being put forth even this year, on top of the words coming out of the staff that we're not going to take very many O-linemen because we don't need them. That tells me that we've got a secret formula to success already in Stillwater that Coach Cooper Bassett, Andrew Mitchell, and obviously you have Grant Gardner mixed in this bunch as well. I'm excited for this season to come. And Arizona State proved last year, you can go from worst to first real quick, fast, and in a hurry if things are done right. I think we're doing things right. I think you helped get this class on board. So thank you very much for everything you've already done for Cowboy Country. I appreciate you, Jaylan. We'll have to touch base once again.
Yes, sir.
All right, buddy. To everybody else out here, say hi, say bye to Miss Jaylan Beckley, the former Clemson orange-loving tackle, is now a Cowboy who's going to stay in orange. Greatly appreciate your time, sir. You're welcome anytime. We'll get linked up here before too long. I greatly
Yes, sir.
appreciate you, brother, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir. All righty, y'all. That's all we're going to have for this one right here. As always, you know I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here in Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere, so happy you choose to be here. Go ahead and hit the like button if you like the daggone thing. Dislike if you don't, that's okay too. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe. My podcast people out there, you are what makes this engine turn. Do me a favor, hit the stars, leave a review, do what you do. All righty, y'all. Later, taters.